few minutes, guys.
All right, guys. So we'll start 1 minute.
You want something?
No, thanks. You could take for yourself. I'll take. All right. Jack's tying the shoe. We got the.
Gershman and I are driving in now.
Okay,
That's a good idea. That's football down.
Yeah, I made a mistake in the time of Marav yesterday. So when they did the Daf yesterday, so I did it in like 20 minutes. So if we started in a few minutes, we should be okay. But I did go in super speed. So. All right, so we're going to start a new Mishnah today. If I can find the Mishnah, all right. Yeah. So today is Daf Nun Beis and Nun Gimel, and the Mishnah is over at Nun Aleph Nun Beis. All right, I'll just wait for Eddie to sit, and then we'll start. Jack got the place.
Nun Gimel?
So, no, Nun Aleph Nun Beis. Nun.
Oh, Nun Aleph
Yeah.
Nun Beis.
Nun Aleph Nun Beis, and today's Daf. Yeah, the Mishnah today is Nun Beis and Nun Gimel. All right. Now, Mishnah, Zak the Mishnah. Mishnah says, "Kama tiye sela chasera v'lo yeh ba'ona." So we discussed a merchandise payros. So we basically until now been consistent with 1/6, and all of a sudden now we ask about coins. What about coins? How much can a coin be off? Back in the day, so the coins would go by basically the metallic value of the coin. So if the coin started over time started to erode, then technically it's worth less. So how much is it basically up until the point where it can still be used for its value, right? So let's see. So now the sela is going to be our dollar. We're going to refer to the sela as the dollar. Nun Aleph and Beis. Keep going. You got another 15 pages.
What?
So Nun Aleph and Beis.
This way.
Yeah.
Also.
So it says over there. So Rav Meir Aimer Arba Isaros, 4 Isurim per sela. Okay, now so it's basically the article has a little chart, but the sela is, we said, the dollar. All right, the shekel is going to be worth half that. That's going to be the $0.50. The dinar is going to be a quarter. All right, so measure that's a quarter of the sela. 4 dinarim per sela. So then the truth is, Isser is like the penny. However, it's, instead of being 1/25th of a quarter, it's 1/24th. So technically, there's 96, right? 24 times 4, 96 isarim per sela. So now we're saying, according to Meir, it's 4 isarim per sela, 496, which is isser to dinar, which is 1 isser to dinar, 1/24th. So his proportion is 1/24th. As long as the coin is not eroded 1/24th, it's okay. Once it gets beyond 1/24th, then you got an issue of no, you can't count it as a full sela. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer arba pundayos pundal dinar. So a pundayon is actually 2 isarim, right? So it's double that. So instead of being 4 per 96, right, which is 1/24th, it's 8 per 96, which is 1/12th. So far, Rabbi says 1/24th. Rabbi Yehuda says 1/12th. And Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, Omar, he says, Shmoina Pundayos, 8 Pundayos, which is, we said, is 2 isarim each, which is 16 out of 96, which is Shnei Pundayin Ladinar, which is 2 Pundayin Ladinar, basically 4 out of 24, which is 1/6. So Rabbi Shimon says 1/6. That probably should sound familiar to some of you. Oh no. So first sheet was 1/24th, then 1/12th, now 1/6. Now, until what point can one go ahead and say, hey, you gave me a bad coin, in the cities, enough time for him to go ahead and show the money changers, because they'll say, hey, by the way, your coin is not a good coin. And then he can go back to the guy who gave him the coin for whatever he sold into him. The farm in the village is Adar Shabbosos until Erev Shabbos, because, as we'll soon see in the Gemara, They did not have money changes readily available in these smaller villages, and therefore on Erev Shabbos and days of the market, then he would be notified basically that his coin was no good.
How far were the money changers from the base of English? Was it like less than 100 miles, you'd say?
Well, so this is money changes in every town. In other words, even towns in Bovel, they have money changes.
No.
In terms of what
Talking about they go to the base of English.
right. So right now we're not covering that. So in other words, in terms of whether the money is Kesef, Maisasheni,
No, how much? What was the distance
they would be all over the money changers.
from the base of English?
Yeah. Well, the Gizbar was over there, but there was always money changers people because people needed to break down their coins in order to go ahead and back.
So it's a very short distance.
Somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah. See, Makira, and let's say someone recognized it after the Achar Shneim Chodesh. Oh, shkach, 1 second. Whatever. Yeah, 8 ounces should be great. Thank you. So you say, if the guy, even after 12 months, he should accept it. In other words, hey, I'm sorry I gave you a bad coin a year ago. The ain law love and he only has complaints against him. We'll soon see what that line means. The Gemara will explain. The noisna, and this can be used right? Even though this is considered to be a minted coin, right? You have to use a minted coin for Kesa Maisasheni. Now remember, Maisasheni is, as we'll get into the sugya and basically on the second half of today, but basically, right, a guy has a lot of produce, he's supposed to eat in Yerushalayim, that's what it is. You want to go ahead and schlep it there? Not really. So here's what you can do. Go ahead and redeem it, be paid it with coins, and take that coins in Yerushalayim, and in Yerushalayim you spend it on food item related stuff. So that's what you can use these type of coins, even though they're not perfect, you can still use them because it will be accepted. Now, also you do have to tack out, as we'll see later, a fifth. In other words, you're not going to go ahead and do it. So you go ahead and you add 1/5 to whatever you redeem. So if something is 100. And we'll soon see. So if it's 100, then instead of giving 100, you either give 120 or 125. We'll have to see. Also, Machlok gets asked to is how you calculate the 1/5. But let's see the Gemara. Look, the Gemara. So in the beginning of the Mishnah, it's stated, how much can the coin be missing and there not be ona? All right, and let's just go with the simple. It was 1/24, 1/12, 1/6. So we said basically at 1/6, there's no ona, right? Because that was the lashon of the Mishnah. How much can the coin be and not have ona? Thank you very much, Alan. How much can it be missing and it will be ona? So in other words, it seems to be at these fractions at 1/6, it is ona. And our Mishnah seems to say that how much can it be and not be ona? And it sounds like 1/6 is not ona. There's no problem. Exactly. So our Mishnah say basically if you go from 100% down to, so we're going to call it 83%. We're going to call the coin 83% because roughly 1/6, right, is 16 point whatever, 16.6667, right? So up until 83%, in other words, it can be 99, 98, 97, 96, all the way down up until 83. That's what it means. Not talking about at, right, 83.333, whatever it is, right? Rather, up until that point, that's what it means, v'lo yebona. And Tana Baron, the other Tana, that's talking about starting from it's 50% bad, 51% bad, 52, all the way through 83, it's no good. So Maishna, now Gemara comes, okay, second question. Good question. Maishna Basela Depligi. What's the reason by a coin is a machlokes? How much is ona? Right? The Torah doesn't say 1/6 ever, right? So why is it over here in our Mishnah? Is the machlokes is ona 1/24th? Is it frauding, right, or defrauding a person when it's 1/12th? Is it 1/6? Well, Maishna Batalas Delay Pligi. There's no machlokes over there. Everyone seems to say 1/6. Some Rabbi, excuse me, Amarava. Mantan Natalis, Rabbi Shimoni, who is the author of the previous Mishnah when we were assuming, right? Right. So who's the one when, right? So who was the opinion we had earlier with the merchandise? That was referring to Rabbi Shimon. Our Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon says 1/6, and therefore before we're talking about the merchandise being 1/6, but perhaps Rabbi Meir would say 1/24th in the case of a talus, or Rabbi Yehuda would say 1/12th. And Abaye says no different here. Talus, when it comes to a garment or merchandise, achtas machil. up until a sixth. A person is Michael. In other words, okay, you ripped me off a little bit. Okay, I didn't get a great price, but okay, it's fine. Inish dami inish. People say ashik legabecha v'shavi lekersecha. Right? Go ahead and overpay on clothing. Right? Clothing is very valuable. Right? So even if you pay a little extra, it's no big deal. But food, don't get ripped off. In other words, so therefore, by clothing, spend a little extra. People are Michael if they don't get the greatest deal. However, Sela came to but when it comes to a coin, since people are not experts, therefore they're not Michael. I'm not Michael when you give me you're supposed to pay me $1 and you didn't give me $1. You gave me something that was worth 83 cents. That ain't $1, bro. Right? I want $1. So therefore, person's not Michael. That's why there's opinions that it's even less than 1/6, i.e. 1/12 or 1/24. Kufa. So ad so this is basically mentioning what we said in Mishnah. How much could a seller be missing? Or this other price, excuse me, and it'll be on us or Meir Arba Isaros, 4 Isaros, which is out of a seller, which is 496, and Issa the dinar, which is 1 Issa 1/24 to a dinar. Rabbi Huda Arba Pundayos, right? This is 4 Pundayos to an Issa, which turns out is 8. Right, Isarim in 4 Pundayos, so therefore 8 out of 96, which is Pundayos the dinar, which is 2 out of 24, i.e. a ratio of 1/12. And Rishim and Aimer, Shmaina Pundayos, right, 8 Pundayos, which is 16 Isarim, 16 out of 96 per selah. Shnei Pundayos the dinar, 2 Pundayos the dinar, which is 4 Isarim the dinar, which is 4 out of 24. Also 1/6. Yasra Kain, but if it's more than this, right? You can sell it use it for its value. In other words, that if something, it was on Nun Beis Amud Aleph, you got it? Yeah. So if something, let's say, we talked about 83% to be 1/6, right? So let's say something is more. Let's say something is only 80% of its, of weight, what it should have been, right? So you can still use it, but now you use it as 80 as an 80-cent coin. You don't use it as a full sell, as a full 96 or whatever, a full coin. And ad how much can it be around until you can go still use it? Ad shekel until a shekel, because even when it gets low down to 50%, it can still be used as a shekel. Bedina, right? Ad shekel bedina. Excuse me, ad shekel. When it comes to a selah, full 96 up until a shekel, which is 48, so basically 50% of it. And the dinar, when it comes to a dinar, ad roiva until a quarter. We'll soon see what that means. And pakas mikan iser usher. But if an iser more than that, in other words, if an iser beyond, let's say, let's go back to a selah, if it's more than an iser below the shekel, right, then it's usher. Harei and kareno, and that once it becomes usher, then you should not go ahead and sell it. Not to you don't go ahead and sell to a merchant or to a murderer or somebody who's a crooked person, because they're going to go ahead and put it back into circulation, fool others, and say, oh yeah, this worn out seller coin is now the value of a shekel, even though despite the fact it's less than a shekel, i.e. it's more off by 50% than from its original value. Rather, you go ahead and put a hole in it and hang it from your son or your daughter's neck.
So there's such an approach sort of value of it. Every point change. That's it.
L'chari, this is subjective. No, it will be objective. In other words, this is the weight of it.
Weight?
Right, the weight. So Omar Mar, so Besela, when it comes to a selah ad shekel, we just said a selah, right, which was 96, up to a shekel, which is 48, right, out of 96, up until 50%. And the dinar, when it comes to the dinar, the 24-cent coin, ad reva until a quarter. Sounds like till 6, right? So why is one's a quarter and the other one's 50%? What's going on here? So Ma'ishna salad the shekel. Why buy a seller? It's 50%. Well, Ma'ishna b'dinar ad rova. It sounds like a dinar can go down 75% until you have to throw it away. Samar Abaye, my rova. What does it mean, rova? What does it mean, a quarter? Diktani nami b'rova shekel. It means a quarter of a shekel. In other words, what? Like this. Buy a shekel, buy a seller if it goes down 50% up until we called it up until 48 cents, right? So up until 48 cents. And it comes to a dinar up until a quarter of a shekel. Now, how much is a shekel? A shekel is 48-cent piece, right? What's a quarter of 48 cents? 12.
Oh,
So 12, so a dinar can go down to 12, 50%, right? So it's the same thing. It just means instead of saying roiva, a quarter, we're not talking about a quarter of the dinar, we're talking about a quarter of a shekel.
Oh.
So a dinar can go down to a quarter of a shekel. Not a dinar can go down to a quarter of itself, rather to a quarter of a shekel, which is double the dinar, which actually is not, which actually only turns out to be 50% of its own self, and therefore it's the same ratio. And Amarava Dikanami Rav Zayim right? The Katani Roiva, it says a quarter of like Tani, excuse me.
so it would be worth 36.
No. It would be no, because we're coming off of
We're going down.
we're going down from a dinar. A dinar is allowed to go down as much as a quarter of a shekel. So if a shekel is this is a shekel, this is 48 cents. A quarter of a shekel is 12 cents, right? So the dinar is allowed to go down to 12 cents. So 50%.
Oh, the dinar
Right.
is half of a shekel.
Exactly.
Oh,
right. So
okay.
therefore, a quarter of that is a half. Right. Exactly. So it was a little confusing. So right, the Gemara was gonna say, why do you get confusing, right? And my roiva dictari nami roiva shekel. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna so my roiva dictari nami roiva shekel means a fourth of a shekel, and I'm a roiva dictari dictari tani roiva below dictari ravi. It doesn't. It says a quarter, and it doesn't say a fourth, and it's not referring to this. So Shemai, do you learn from this? So one says, "I lamale lemisle the dinar b'shekel." Why do you have to go ahead and say, right? Go ahead and tell you how much has to be eroded using the shekel. Why don't you just talk about the dinar and just say half a dinar? Right? So Gemara says, no, Kamash is going to teach us something else. The Ika dinar, the Asi Mishekel, right? Because a dinar can actually come from a shekel. In other words, if you have a shekel and it eroded enough, now basically this shekel has turned into a dinar because it lost 50%. The Messiah the Rabbi Ami is a proof of Rabbi Ami, dinar habami shekel, mutal kaimo. A dinar that has lost 50% that came from a shekel is mutal, go ahead and keep. However, dinar habami sella also but a dinar that comes from a sella, i.e., you had a sella that lost 75% of its value or of its, of its mass, then you can't use it. Once it goes below 50, you got to go ahead and toss it. Over time, yeah, it erodes. I guess they're coins or whatever. Yeah. So pakas mekan aser, right? However, less than that, if it goes down more than an isser, then it's aser. So my kamar is going to be so. Rabbi Hachi kamar paksa sella yeisimich leona isser aser. If the seller goes down more than the ona, so let's say the ona we talked about before was actually, let's just do it simply. So 96. What is 1/6 of 96, right? So 96 was the 16, right? So 16, right? 96, 16, right? So yeah, 16. So for 96, it will go down to 80. Okay. So once it goes down to 79, right? 79 out of 96. So once it comes to 79, then it becomes usher. That's what it means.
Wait, you're talking about Isur to seller?
Yeah, right.
So you're talking not 70, what?
No. So it would be 80.
You're
80
from 96 to 80.
From 96 to 80 is still within an acceptable level to be counted as a 96 Isser coin. Once it goes down, once it goes below the 80, the ona by an Isser or more, now it's now you can't use it as for what it is. So really, Rava Yihachi, it doesn't make sense because you're telling me 80 is ona. So if it's 79 and a half, according to you, it's not an Isser worse, right, than the ona, so it should be okay. But why is Mashu okay? Why is it acceptable to be less than it as long as it's not an Isser, right? There's many prutos in an Isser. Elamarabba, what it means is Paksasela Isser, right? The dinar, Usser, right? And now no. It's telling us that if it's an Isser more, right, than a dinar, then it's off. In other words, an Isser to a dinar is 1/24th. And really what we're talking about is according to the sheet of Rabbi Meir. So therefore, what it basically was telling you, if it's more off than an Isser to a dinar, i.e., if it's more off than 1/24th, even by a fraction, right? So 1/24th out of 96 is once it goes below 92, if it's 91.9, then it's no good, then it's Usser. The stomach Rabbi Meir, therefore it's like Rabbi Meir, who held 1/24th, which is the most strict. But that was the first video. The Tan Hosman over there, a seller that came possible. And they said, you know what, you should go ahead and throw it, you can use it as a weight, you can't use it as currency. So Tamea becomes Tamea because it's used as a kli. So how much can it go down until you can go ahead and use it for, right, to keep it around as a weight? So the Sela Shnei Dinar, right? So when it comes to a Sela for Shnei Dinar, i.e. half, 50%, pockets me can. But if it's less than that, then Yikot to go ahead and put a hole in it. Yes, okay. What if it's more than that? What if it's more than 50%, but less than no? So Amar Rafuna, Pakis Mikan Yikots. Yes, okay, and Yikots. Either way, you got to destroy it, even if it's more than 50%, even if it's less than 50%. Once it goes beyond Ona, you have to go ahead and destroy it, which is a big finish. No, if it goes down more than 50%, then you got to go ahead and destroy it. Yes, if it's less than 50%, it's only 55%, you can still keep it around. You just have to use it at its value at 55%. You can't use it at the full value. So how could you say that if it goes below even if it's above 50%, you have to go ahead and destroy it? Yes, okay. So if it goes down more than Ona, then you can go ahead and sell it for its value. Mashma, that if Ona, we said was at 80, right? 80 out of 96, which would be 1/6, right? If it was if it went that, so according to this, we said 48 is the 48 is 50%, right? So if it goes down below 80, it's in the 70s, you can still keep it around, right? You just use it at its value of, this is worth 70, 60 dirham, right? But Rav Huda said he got to destroy it. So my lab shepachsa yoisimichle onasa.
And its weight value.
Right, its weight value.
Not at its face value.
Exactly. 100%. Excellent, right? So he's saying in that case, so my lab shepachsa yoisimichle onasa. Whereas, and therefore we see you're still allowed to keep it. You just have to use it as new weight value. So lo, you say, no, maybe we're talking about that. No, we're just saying you're allowed to go ahead and keep it up until it gets to 80. You're allowed to keep it until it gets to 80, but below 80, you can't keep it anymore. So lo, you say that never got to the point of more than no. Then you go ahead and sell it for its value, right? That case, you can go ahead and sell it for what it's worth, even the original amount. So when it says I may say ad kamativa case what do you mean? How much you allowed to go ahead and keep it until you have to keep it? So besella ad shekel, right? Sell it 50%. So my lab so we see it goes down a little bit, and you're allowed to keep it up until that point where it gets to 50%. So you see clearly you're allowed to keep something up until 50%, even beyond right? Be anywhere between that 80 and that 48, you should be able to keep it. Just do it at its new value.
Right. You just can't use it as legal
as a full point, right? But you can use it for what its value is. Right? And it says, no, the nafil and nurabim is bechadazina. No, we're not talking about a case. If it goes below you got to destroy it. How you get a case that it's at 50%? Because in order to get to 50%, at some point it has to go from,
Because you can't differentiate.
But at some point it has to go from, from 80 to 79 to 78.
Every day.
No,
Right, but is it a guard? So the Gemara answers, no. It got damaged in a fire. According to Rafuna, right, but so the Torah says, according to Rafuna, it got damaged in a fire. And all of a sudden, it didn't go from 80 to 79 to 78 to 77, 76, all the way down to 48. No, it didn't happen like that, right? If anytime it got below 80, you had to get rid of it. Right. It was at 85, and then there was a fire or something. And then when they found it after the fire, if it's at 50%, you can go ahead and now use it as a shekel. If it's less than that, you can't use it. If it's more than that, you can't use it. Because if less than that, people might say this is a shekel, and even though it's less than a shekel, or if it's more than that, people will try and face it off as a seller, and you can't use it then either. So according to Huna, that was the case.
Or you can reduce it yourself to shekel.
I mean, shave it down.
Shave it down.
But so he's saying it's also the kaima. You can't even have it around, right? Even before that point, you should have destroyed it. So you're saying is maybe I can have it,
right?
Why destroy it? Maybe I should be allowed to go ahead and use it. All right, I hear. But the current not.
You could use it as an acetone.
Right. It was so I'm about. Let's see. Can you use it as acid? Can you leave it out? So you go ahead and put a hole in it. If you plan to and use it as a necklace. You don't go ahead and throw it away, right? You don't go ahead and throw it. Excuse me. Yeah. So it says first we say you can go ahead and leave it on their neck. So yes, if it becomes below this point, you cannot go ahead and use it as a weight. You can't use it by, let's say, your loose metals. You can't go ahead and put a hole in it and use it as a necklace. So you can't keep it on at all. Ella, or Yishlik, or Yitaich, or Yikots, or Yechli, go ahead and crush it and grind it down, destroy it, throw it out into the sea. You got to get rid of it. You can't even leave it around because people might come to use it before if you leave it around. So how can you say you can go ahead and use it as a necklace? We see clearly can't use it as a necklace. I'm Rabbi Lazar. I mean, some say Rav Huna. I'm Rabbi Lazar. Loikash can't be answered. Come in outside. If it's in the middle will never get reused again, and therefore you can go ahead and if you put a hole in the middle, then you go ahead and use it as a necklace. But you can do a hole on the side, then sometimes people just say it's a damaged coin, but it still has still a minted coin, and therefore it could still be usable. So that was the case when it said it had to be grinded down or destroyed. Fine. Now. As we said, until by the coin, until when at what point you have to go ahead and return it. So in the cities, until you go ahead and show a money change. In the villages, until Erev Shabbos. So I understand why by this coin. Right? Do we say there's a difference where if you're in a city or if you're in a village? But when it comes to a talis, we had one thing. She read Latager Lekroivo, right? Until you show your relatives or merchants. So Rabbi, Kitanami Masnisa Metalis Bekrachim. So maybe over there we're talking about in the whole case of the payros. We're talking about a case in the cities, and therefore we're talking about the markets are open, people around, and therefore we're showing that case. And Rav Omar, no. Talis, when it comes to talis, kol ish kimle begava. Sell begava. So now when it comes to a garment, so people know, they say, oh, you got that coat, nice coat. How much you pay for it? So people know what coats are. However, sell up when it comes. So therefore, anybody is an expert, right? You don't need a money changer. You need anybody. So therefore, they have anybody in a village or anybody in a city. However, sell when it comes to coins, came to love call inish kimle begava. Since when it comes to coins, people are not experts in coins. Oh, whether this is good or not. Ella shulchani, only a money changer. Therefore, Hilkach bekrachim nika shulchani adshir shulchani. In the city, when there's money changers around, so until you show a money changer. Big fun with the villages, the like shulchani, where there are no money changers, then ad arvi shabbasos, the sleek of the shuk. Only until Erev Shabbos, that's when you go to the shuk, and that's when you'll have people tell you, hey, by the way, your coin is off. And then we said, as we said after 12 months, you can go ahead and return it. So the Gemara says, hey, I understand. If we're talking about the cities, well, if it were in the cities, we said until you show the money changes. So you got, let's say, 6 hours. And if you're in the villages, so maximum you got 6 days until Erev Shabbos. So Rav Chizda, Midas Chasidus Shanu. We're talking about you want to be a good guy. Midas Chasidus, right? If I give you a bad coin and you come to me 8 months later and you say, yo, I appreciate the business, but by the way, I just, the coin that you gave me is not really a good coin. I say, oh, my bad. Here, I'll switch with you, no problem. So Midas Chasidus. What about the Seifa? He only has a claim against him. Notice he can claim, he can bark, but he has no case in court. So what does that mean? Laman, for who? Who's the one who only gets to bark and complain, but not take him to court? Ilu chassid. If we're talking about the chassid, so I bought something from Yigal and I gave him a bad coin and I returned him the coin. But ilu chassid, like people look at me. So, and they were saying that I'm the one with claims against Yigal. So when I says, okay, I have an idea. Look at don't be a tzaddik. In other words, if I'm going to complain by returning him the coin, so don't return the coin, and then I won't have complaints. I'm not going to complain against Yigal. Yigal says you gave me a bad coin. I said, okay, I'm sorry. Tough luck. So I'm not going to have claims if I don't return it. So if I'm going to have complaints, then just don't return it because I'm not required to do it. The kalamine, but maybe Yigal's the one having complaints after I switch the coins out to a better coin. So the Boston kalamine tarumas tiavile. I understand after I gave Yigal a good coin, why should he have any complaints against me? So Gemara says, no, Hakikama doesn't mean to say ha'acher. Somebody else, let's say someone who's not a chassid, he doesn't want to be such a nice guy. Says, business is business, deal's a deal. You lost, you went beyond your exchange return policy. So even though, so I turn to Yigal and say, hey, sorry, look at the sign, says, all returns, within, and
30 days.
To show a shulchani, that's what it says there, and he didn't do it. So Yigal is the one who could only have complaints against me, and he has no court case, even if he, hired himself a top lawyer.
The minhag, they used to do it in Europe too, among each other. They used to.
To what?
The corn,
Oh,
to 6.
what do you mean that? Oh,
They used to rub the corn.
yeah.
Up to 6.
I didn't know, yeah.
Happened with the corn.
Uh-huh.
No,
No.
no, they put the doctor, oh my God. But they used to treat it, going up to 6.
Yeah.
It's
So
okay.
now let's get into the Meister Sheni case. So we said the nice of the Meister Sheni ve'enu chay she'ein ela nefesh ra. So you can go ahead and use that money. So now let's say this is a coin, right? The coin is at 80, right? Or it's 85, let's say 85 out of 96. So it's less than ona. So this coin, I can go ahead and use it to redeem my Meister Sheni and take it this coin with me to Yerushalayim and spend it on food there. Because why? Because everybody will accept my 83-cent coin as a full 96 coin. Because it's not ona yet, and therefore take it at face value. Sorry, it's crumpled. It's a little, chipped, but here's your seller. And Amar Rav Papa, so Rav Papa says, hi man, the Muki Mazuze, Mika Nevashra, a person who says, well, I know it has to be a perfect 96 out of 96, can't be 93 out of 96 or whatever it is. Such a person is called a Nefesh Ra. All right, he's like stingy. And this is only when he has others. So Messiah Lechizkiah. And this is a proof of chisi, demer bala porta b'shavia. When he comes to go ahead and break down his money, so it's b'shavia, right? It should be at its worth. In other words, it's only worth 83. You only get change for 83. However, the challah, but to go ahead and redeem the challah b'yafa, you can go ahead and be mischala for the full value. So the Gemara says, "My kamar." What do you mean? We're talking about haki kamar. Afa b'shavia porta. Even though when one is coming to break it down porta b'shavia, he only gets 8 or whatever it is. 83 is starting for that coin. When he goes ahead and redeems it, I can go ahead and use it as 96 isar. So Gemara says, you can go ahead and basically like rip off Ma'aser Sheni. Because remember, if I'm going ahead and I'm only giving credit for this coin for 83 isarim, but I'm able to go ahead and be mischalo 96. Right? Well, let's call it cents instead of cents, right? 96 cents with this coin, I'm redeeming 96 cents, and I'm only getting a value of 83 spent in Yerushalayim. So I'm ripping off Ma'aser Sheni. I'm supposed to be bringing 96 into the economy of Yerushalayim and not 83. So how can you use it both ways? So the name of the Shavach Chizkiah is Zaltam Ma'aser Sheni, V'Amar Chizkiah. Ma'aser Sheni Sheva Pruta. Even Ma'aser Sheni doesn't have a Sheva Pruta. I have this very small field, just a garden, right? And it's very little. He can say, you know what? I had my other fields, and all of a sudden I found this other batch, or this, of crops. So before, when I was mischalel, right? So a person typically does it generously. He's not so he's not. Oh, I have 68.7 pounds of crops, so therefore I'm going to do the value of that person. Okay, rounds up to 70. So he has room on his coins. In other words, because he didn't fully, right? He says keep the change.
You also have to round up.
Right.
You can't stingy.
It can't change. So people round up, keep the change. So when I say keep the change, right, and I give a $10 bill for $9, it was $9.36. I give $10.
Okay.
So if I throw a little more, so okay, keep a little less change. So therefore, we're saying use it on the money. A person couldn't be exact. So you see there, you have to be generous with Ma'aser Sheni, and I can't go ahead and redeem an 83-cent coin on 96 cents of produce.
Have to use this.
So my biyaf, but it means both. The trade zile lemazali. In other words, you can't go ahead and be muzalzel. You can't go ahead and do it. In other words, if I'm going to go ahead and use it for the value of, if I get credit when I redeem it for 96, when I go to Yerushalayim, they say this is a 96-cent coin, and therefore I'm bringing 96 cents and not 83 cents. That's right. So Gufa. 5 lines on the bottom. Amar Chizkiah Ma'aser Sheni Shein Bo Sheva Pruta. Ma'aser Sheni does not have a Sheva Pruta. I mean, who say it and it's Chaimesh, right? Because we said earlier, a person has to tack on if he's doing his own. He has to go ahead and tack on 20%. Mechala al Ma'aser Sheni and previous money that also is waiting to be taken to Yerushalayim. Fishi Yafshal Adam Latanti Ma'aser. A person can't be exact as Ma'aser. So Meisevei Hatruma V'Abikurim Chayavim Lem Misa. So now we're certain qualities when it comes to Truma and Bikurim as opposed to Ma'aser Sheni. So Truma and Bikurim. So a person's chayiv eats a tame, or if a non Kohen eats it, it's a kind of a misa, the chaimesh, right? And he has to go ahead also and pay a chaimesh if he goes ahead and eats from somebody else's truma bikurim. If I damage his truma bikurim, I have to give him, pay him back. In addition, I have to tack on a chaimesh. And Vasir Lazarim, and it's also for a non-Kohen, and also it belongs to the Kohen, i.e., let's say the Kohen has Truma, he's allowed to go ahead and use it to be Makadish woman, as opposed to Meiser Sheni, right? That could be that's Mos Shemayim, right? That's Hashem's money, and I can't use it to be Makadish woman. And you can go ahead and be mavatolit in 1 in 100. So if there's truma or bikurim that was in a mixture and there's less than 100 of truma or bikurim, it can be mavatal. And it requires washing the hands, shemesh, and if one is tummy, he goes to the mikveh, he has to wait till the sun sets. Harei elo betruma bikurim, mashen gave meiser. These apply to truma bikurim, but not to meiser sheni. Now, what's the kasha? So my mashen came be meiser. What does it mean as opposed to meiser? So lav mechal to meiser batal beruva. So it says over here that when it comes to bikurim and truma, it's batal in 1 in 100, which is not like meiser sheni. What's meiser sheni? It's probably only batal in batal b'shishim, batal b'rov, right? We call it batal b'rov 1 in 60th, right? Now, b'misa the chizkiya having the davar sheyesh lo matirim, chol davar sheyesh lo matirim afilu be'elef lo batal. Now, understand, if you have a small amount, so he said, you know how to get rid of a small amount? Don't say it's mavatal. It has a matir. How's my matir? Say that this meiser, actually, this meiser sheni is included with when I said keep the change on that $10 bill, and it was only for $9.63, so it'll be $9.78 now because I have extra room on my money. So something which is davar sheyesh lo matir, something that has a heter, we don't allow it to be batal barov. You have to wait until the time because it's called a davar sheyesh lo matir. Something can only be batal barov if it has no other way for it to become mutter. But if I have another way for it to become mutter, you have to do it that way. You can't rely on it being nullified in a majority. So over here, how could you say that meiser sheni isn't batal in 1 in 100, it's batal 1 in 60, if is it considered to be a davar sheyesh lo matir? I.e., I can just go ahead and say, hey, it's included in my previous money, and therefore it's being mechalal that way.
Okay. Truma,
Yeah.
we know can be batal.
Batal 1 in 100.
1 in 100.
Right.
Okay. So now we're saying that meiser sheni is not the same kind of thing that can be batal because it's a.
So no. So he said it's not batal the same way. All right, you're touching a little bit on the tears as I'm sort of trying to word my words carefully.
Okay.
It's not batal the same way as truma. So our havmin is it's okay. It's batal barov 1 in 60. But if, like Chizkiah said, you can include in other monies, it's considered to be a davar sheyesh lo matirin. And something which is a davar sheyesh lo matirin is never batal, even 1 in 1,000. So how can it be nullified at all?
Wait, why do we say that? What's the chiluk? What?
Because we said by meiser sheni,
yeah,
I can go ahead if I have extra meiser sheni, right? So if it's in a mixture, I shouldn't say, oh, it's batal barov. I should say, you know what? Let whatever is in this mixture be mischalel on my previous money that I gave or that I have waiting to go to Yerushalayim. I have extra space on those coins. So whatever is in this rove is batal there, and therefore I don't need to say, oh, it's batal barov. I'm already mischalel on previous money. So the Gemara says,
you just take it to Yerushalayim.
right. So if it's called davar sheyesh lo matir, I feel it be elef lo batal. It's never even 1 in 1,000. So the Gemara says, the batal baruva. Maybe it means, who said that when it says, oh, it's not batal baruva, it's not batal 1 in 100 like truma, it means that there's batal in 1 in 60. Dilma lo batal cloud. Maybe it's a proof for Chizkiah and says it's not batal at all because you have this way to be matir. So Gemara says no. You can't say why. To the Gabi, Truma Chumra, the Truma Ktani. We seem to be listing Chumras over here by Truma and Meiser versus, actually by Truma and Bikurim versus Meiser. This would be a Kula by Truma and Meiser because these are all Batal 1 in 100 and Meiser Sheni is never Batal, right? So Kula the Truma, the Ktani is not listing Kulas of Truma. Gemara says, well, it says, what do you mean? He says, these are the nechasei of Kohen, i.e., you can marry a woman with it. Masha ein came, the meiser sheni, you cannot marry a woman. Sounds like that's a kula when it comes to truma. So the Gemara says, no, so you can't think that meiser sheni can be batal. Why? The tiny bed within the Brisa says meiser sheni batal beruba. It says meiser sheni beferish is batal berov. Ubeiz a Meiser Sheni Amru, but Meiser Sheni Bo Sheva Pruta, Uvishenichlas Yishav Yatsa. Regarding Meiser Sheni, it's not Sheva Pruta. It can be Batal Barov, right, which would be a Kasha and Chizkiya, and also stuff that enter Yerushalayim. If the halakha is taka true by Chizkiya, go ahead and do the shtick and say it's on previous money, right? The nichole al masar rishonos, right? We're talking, and therefore you can go ahead and include it with other monies. So the Gemara says, I have an idea. Deloy Parik, he didn't have other money. Now the whole thing is on the assumption that I already, redeemed $9.63 with a $10 bill. Maybe this is all my crops I had. And it was just all my crops added up to less than a pruta. And the pruta is not enough money to go ahead and redeem it, right? So Deloy Parik. I have an easy meiser the Islay. So why don't you go?
How much do you need?
It's in a cellar, you mean?
A cellar.
No, it's a pruta, right? We're talking about a pruta, right? Shein bo sheva pruta, right? Meiser shein bo sheva pruta, right? We're talking about meiser and less than a pruta is not money, right?
Right.
So there is an isser, but you can't redeem it for money because anything less than a pruta is not money, right? So it has to be something which qualifies, right? So Gemara says, "I've nisi meiser the islay." But let him go ahead and bring other meiser, and add it together and have a shear, and then you can go ahead and redeem it. So Gemara says, "Deraisa derabbanan let me start," right? Because in this case, and I was that the meiser sheni that was mixed together is only midrabbanan, right? Because really it should be batal, and the other one is other meiser sheni you're bringing in is deraisa, and you can't mix together the derabbanan deraisa. Venisi demai. So go ahead and bring maybe demai, which is only also derabanan, and therefore you include it. So dilma asi lasuye v'adai. So he says no. If you go ahead and do that, then people might think that I can, since I added this with demai, maybe I can do actual meiser sheni deraisa and combine that with demai. So we don't want to confuse it. So venisi shtei prutas v'nechal lel meiser upruta mechza, right? V'nechal hai al hechi sera. I have an idea. Go ahead and get extra food, right? And be meschalet on. Let's say it was a 1.5 I needed. So go ahead and get two prutas and have extra there, and then now use the stuff that was in the mixture and throw that on the extra over there. So Gemara says, "Misavaris pruta mechza tifase shtei prutas." Right? Do you think that you can go ahead and redeem something which is a pruta and a half on 2 prutas? Lo pruta tifase pruta. Right now is 1 pruta is for one of that. The chatzi pruta loy tipsa, and the other one is a half pruta, or 1 pruta for a half amount of produce. Doesn't work because there's not enough produce to qualify. So how they're deraisa derabanan, deraisa derabanan levi strafi. Therefore, once again, you come back to the same issue of deraisa derabanan. Venisi isser. So let him go ahead and bring an isser, right? 1 larger quantity isser, I think, was 8 prutos, right? And instead of do a pruta and a half on 2 prutas, do a pruta and a half on an entire isser, right? Plenty of space there. So the Gemara says no. The master suye prutos. Person, if the person sees that he's using Isser, he might do the same with 2 prutas, and therefore it will come back to the same issue. So that was that case. So therefore, since he can't go ahead and redeem it, so therefore we can say it's Batal Barov. And or the case of Shnichas Yerushalayim, V'yatza. So when Yerushalayim V'yatza, so Gemara says, Yamai, L'hadir V'deli. Let understand. So he took it into Yerushalayim, and then he went outside. It's no longer. So therefore, it could be batal. So why should it be batal? It's the davar sheish latir. Go back into Yerushalayim and eat it, right? What's the big deal? So Gemara says the shenitma. It became tummy. Now there's a halacha you have to know, right? So you're allowed to redeem something, right? Before you can't redeem anything in Yerushalayim, right? Once you have to redeem it outside, right? Once I bring the food into Yerushalayim,
Now it's Kodesh.
And I take it out, I can't redeem it anymore. So once it's qualified in Yerushalayim, it's something that you have to eat, right? You have to eat it in Yerushalayim. So the Gemara says, bring back in Yerushalayim, so it became tummy. I can't eat it if it's tummy, even though I bring it back in Yerushalayim, so it became tummy. So therefore, I'm forced to go ahead and it can be nullified. So the
Meiser Sheni that is brought into Yerushalayim,
right, it has to be eaten then, right?
Is considered, and if it's taken out, it becomes tamei.
No. It happened to become tummy. Normally you take it out, just bring it back in Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
But you can't eat it anymore because it came tummy. So therefore, you can't eat it and you can't redeem it, right? You can't redeem it because it's outside Yerushalayim. You can't eat it
because now.
Right,
it's covered.
right, because you can't redeem it because it was at one point in Yerushalayim, and you can't eat it because it was nitma. So therefore, you can rely on it was batel on the bittul, the batel barov, right? So that's the case. That's why it says, maybe there still is an answer. The need for Kate, let him go redeem it. Damar Rabbi Elazar, Menai Lemaisa Sheshanita. So how do you know Maisa Sheni? Go ahead and redeem it. So I feel of Yerushalayim, and even in Yerushalayim. So it says over there, he can't go ahead and say so. Means you can't eat it. Then you can redeem it. And he says over there, and he took the food right from in front of him. So we see that maybe it's that you could go ahead and redeem it, something which came tummy. So Ella b'lakuach b'kesav ma'aser shein, right? And we're talking about a case of something that was purchased with Kesef Ma'aser Sheni, that cannot be redeemed. Not the original Ma'aser Sheni, but food that became redeemed, right? The food that was purchased with Kesef Ma'aser Sheni, that became tummy, that you can't go ahead and redeem. So the Gemara says, the Kopa Ma'aser Sheni, leave for gay, let him go ahead and redeem it. The Tanai was on a Mishnah, Kluf Kesef Ma'aser Sheni, Shenitma, that. You can also redeem that. So that's not that wasn't an issue. You can redeem it also. The Gemara says, no, Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar you cover. Rabbi Yehuda says, you cannot redeem it, you have to go ahead and bury it. So Rabbi Yehuda, if that's the case, why do you have to say one outside Yerushalayim? Just even if it's in Yerushalayim and became tamei, you can't eat it, you can't redeem it. So it is a davar she'ein lo matirin. It should be batel barov, right? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, why do you have to say outside Yerushalayim? Even in Yerushalayim, it should be able to be batel barov. So I said, El yelim b'tar. Really, we're talking about tar. If it's tar. Why can't you go ahead and eat it? Bring it back to Yerushalayim and read it. Well, my yatsa. What does it mean yatsa? The nafel mechitzos. That the walls of Yerushalayim fell down. They came down. Right? It was, they were destroyed. So there's halacha, right? So once the ma'aser sheni can only be eaten when the walls of Yerushalayim are standing. If there's no walls, you can't eat it anymore. And I redeem it. You can't redeem it anymore because it was in Yerushalayim when it had walls. So once you bring it to Yerushalayim with walls, basically, it throws out any opportunity to go ahead and redeem it. And once the walls came down, you can't eat it. So you can't eat it. You can't redeem it. You're stuck. So therefore, it can be batel barov. When it comes to the mechitza of eating, so that is midaraisa, right? In other words, it has to be eaten within the walls of the midaraisa and the mechitza of the liklot. In other words, the halacha of taking, once it sees the walls of Yerushalayim, it comes back out. The reason why you can't go ahead and redeem it is midrabanan. You can't redeem it anymore because it was within the walls of Yerushalayim. That's midrabanan. When they're bazar misake and kisim mechitzas, right? What they're talking about when there was the gzera, you can't go ahead and redeem it if it's in Yerushalayim. That's only when there are walls. However, less than the mechitzas, but there's no walls. Then lo gazer rabbanan. The rabbanan were not gozer in that case that you cannot go ahead and redeem it. So you should be able to redeem it. So the answer no, lo plag rabbanan ben is the mechitzas ben less than mechitzas. No, the gzera always applies whether it's mechitzas or not. If it was in Yerushalayim, and even if the walls came down, you can still no longer go ahead and redeem it. And Rav Huna bar Yehuda, Rav Sheshes, Chazak is one case. Meister Sheni she'ein bo sheva pruta shenik nas Yerushalayim v'yatza. So he says it's not two different cases. One case of pakam sheva pruta, and the other case is the walls fell, the left Yerushalayim. Rather, it's one case of she'ein bo sheva pruta that shenik nas Yerushalayim v'yatza. So we ask the same question. Okay, so go ahead and bring it back in Yerushalayim and eat it there. So the Gemara says the nafel mechitzas. You can't eat it again in Yerushalayim because the walls fell down. Why don't you go ahead and redeem it? The halachas of eating is the walls. It's midaraisa, but to go ahead that you can't go ahead and redeem it if it is in Yerushalayim is only midarabanan. The rabban and the takana that you can't redeem it once it's in Yerushalayim is only when the walls are standing. However, kilas and the mechitzas like as rabbanan with the rabbanan were not in that case. When the chitzas no mechitzas, then it should be there's no gzera. So my answer is lo plag rabbanan. There's always a gzera whether or not there are walls. Even if they came down afterwards, once in Yerushalayim, it's considered to be no longer redeemable. Hihachi. Why do you have to say there's no shev pruta? I feel yesh banami. If it's more than shev pruta, why should it be a case like that? So lomi boy kamar, lomi boy yesh the color mechitzas. You could say that not only if it has it, where the mechitzas are considered to be right, it's considered to be taken to Yerushalayim. Aval aimbo, aima loy kal to le mechitzas. But maybe if it's not a shear of pruta, maybe you can say that the walls don't halachically. It's not considered like food was taken inside the walls because it's not considered food yet because maybe it was less than the proper shear. So Kamash Malon, that you don't need the shear for the walls to be colored. Therefore, once it goes inside, it's considered to be no longer redeemable because it was in Yerushalayim. So Tanur Rabbanan. Now, speaking of which, it says Imgal Yigal Ish Mimaiser. A person goes ahead and redeems his meiser. It says Mimaisera v'loy kol meiser. It says from his meiser and not all of his meiser. So problem meiser sheni shem bo sheva pruta. So what does it mean? What comes to include? So we're going to include a case of even not sheva pruta. And Itamar Rav Ami Omar Ein Bo Rav Asi Omar. In other words, Rav Asi says that it itself is not a pruta, and Rav Asi Omar Ein B'chumsho, that its fifth is not a pruta. So in other words, which one are we talking about? It has to be a pruta. Is it that the chaimesh has to be a pruta, right? Or is that even the keren itself can't be? So, and Rabbi Yechon Amar Ein Bo, and similarly, Rabbi Yechon says it itself is not a pruta, and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar Ein B'chumsho, right? No, the chaimesh is not. So if it's less than that, then it's not. You're not obligated. So meisvei ma'aser shein shem bo shev pruta. So okay, if it's not a pruta, then you don't have to go ahead and bring it on its own, but you can go ahead and redeem it on previously redeemed money. So if we're talking about the fifth is not a pruta, that's why it says it's sufficient instead to go ahead and do that. But even though that it itself the Karen has, however, came the bechumsha like a shapir. But since the fifth didn't have, then it'll be okay. Elamandem or aimbo, my diet. What does it mean? It'll be sufficient, right? In other words, he has to go ahead and do it. So Gemara says kasha. So Gemara says kasha. We have a case of one more case. All right, let's do one more case, a little longer term. Let's just see. Amaravina, because excuse me. So iboilu chumshom in the gav or chumshom lebar. So which way is a fifth? Do we say from the inside? Right? Or from the outside. Now, from the inside means that you take, so let's see. So, Amaravina, Tashma. So, in other words, do we say that basically a fifth is, if you say 100, right? So, is a fifth meaning that you divide that in 5 and add it to it, right? And therefore it'll be 20. Or do we say that you add that you add on a quarter, and therefore the new amount is 1/5? So the 25, which would be 1/5 of 25, is 1/5 of 125. So do we say it's from the inside or from the outside? So now, so Tashma Habalim Be'esrim. So that's now we never want the mikdash to be short. So therefore, we always want to give it when we auction things off, we give it to the most money that will come to them. So now Tashma Habalim Be'esrim, the owners say, I'll pay 20. And everyone else says 20. So Habalim Chayim. So the Bailim come first. Because they add on a Chaymish. So Amar Chad Hare Alai Be'esrim. Huh?
Who's auction?
The Gizbar, right?
The base of mixture.
Right.
For buying.
Mikdash paid the hekdesh. A person's paid his own hekdesh, right? Person's own hekdesh. Right. So when he redeems his hekdesh, someone else was willing to pay more. So the owner he wants to redeem this for that amount. I will only redeem it for less. Give it to the one the highest bid. But let's say he says 21, and I say. Right, so maybe so Amar Echad Hare Alai Besri. The guy says 21, and I say 20, but my 20 is really more, right? So what do? Habaylim Noistim Esrim V'Sheish. The owner has to go ahead and give 26. Now, the best bid is 21, and plus my chaymesh, I have to go ahead and tack on a chaymesh from my bid of 20. So you see, it's 5 of 20. And therefore, it's you do it from the inside, right? Not from the outside. Now, habaylim noisim esim v'sheish. So esim v'sheish, he says 22. Habaylim noisim esim v'sheva. B'esim v'sheish, he says 23. Habaylim noisim esim v'shmona. He gives 28. B'esim v'yarba, the guy bids 24. Habaylim noisim esim v'teisha. He gives 29. Esim v'chamesh. Habaylim noisim shloishim.
We can do so many different.
Huh?
We can figure
Right, in this case, lefish ain't al ilu zeh, because we don't add the 5th onto the other guy's bid, only my own bid. That's how we calculate the bid. However, shmamina chum shalabar, we see over here that it's looking in from the outside. In other words, you look in from milabar. In other words, that the 5th is from the outside. The total amount is a 5th, and therefore it will be 25. And shmamina. Right, indeed, learn from there. And Kitanai, right, actually, it's my close tonight. It says the Yosef Chamisha Salav Shehu B'Chensho Chamisha, that it and its Chaimesh will be a 5th. In other words, that the 5th is afterwards. In other words, you add on 25, that's a 5th. And Divi Rabbi Yeshi and Rabbi Sanamir, no Chamishasa Chumash Shel Karen. It means a 5th of the original Karen, which would be 20 based on 100. So we'll stop here. Shkoyach, everybody. So tomorrow, what time is quick?